So before we got started, you were telling me about a news story dealing with a military person, something that you read that was in the Advocate this morning. Let's just focus on that just for a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. That's right. Just broke last night in the Advocate and came to my attention. There was a veteran over at Pearl River that the headline is it was beaten by St. Tammany Parish deputies. The case has been turned over to the federal authorities by Warren Montgomery, the district attorney for District 22, which I think is the right thing to do. He turned it over to the federal authorities, considering there may have been a civil rights violation. This individual, this veteran, was beaten pretty badly. Ended up with lacerations on his face, bruises on his body. You can see the pictures in the article by Sarah Baconis at the Advocate. Mr. Cambry's his last name. He was not having a good day. This is not it's not atypical or untypical of anybody, but veterans with PTSD, those kind of things, can suffer from symptoms and issues pretty much any time. And he's an Army combat veteran, so it's pretty apparent that he's suffered from mental health issues and PTSD and those kind of things. So some of his friends got worried about him and asked the police department to do what's called a welfare check on him, which is really just stopping by and making sure that the guy's doing okay. We have a big effort in the United States and in the state of Louisiana and St. Tammany in particular to try to prevent suicides wherever we can. And veterans have a very high suicide rate. It's still over 22 a day from what the Veterans Administration publishes and everything. So, apparently the police department from Pearl River went out there and they wanted to get the guy to medical attention, to a hospital, and he did not resist, but he didn't want to go. So they called the sheriff's department to see if they could get some help. And unfortunately, when the sheriff showed up, apparently they thought that they needed to use physical force with the gentleman. It doesn't appear that he tried to use physical force against them. He was tased. He was beaten with baton. He said he was knocked unconscious. The injuries appear to be pretty well documented in the article. The danger here is that, we don't want veterans or anybody for that matter to be deterred from reporting when they do have mental health issues or have concerns with how they're dealing with their post-traumatic stress symptoms and those kind of things. We want them to be able and want them to be encouraged to go seek medical attention. And this could definitely deter that if it gets out of hand. I hope the feds get back to District Attorney Montgomery very quickly so that we can get the facts. And if people need to be held accountable, then they're held accountable. But it's just a terrible way to treat a veteran.
Sure. You would think that, though, I'm just throwing this out, you would think that the sheriff's office would not be mistreating a veteran unless provoked. I mean, I'm just throwing it out to you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm shocked. I'm in a state of shock that this happened here in St. Tammany. We don't have these types of issues with our sheriff's department. So I'm very surprised. I'm very interested to get to the facts, but it sure looks like they used too much force. Not saying that force wasn't needed,
right.
But it sure looks like they used too much force. So I'm very surprised. I'm very interested. Has voiced his concerns, and we'll just have to wait and see what the investigation turns out.